What happens when two seasoned business leaders get together? They talk shop, of course. Sit back and listen in as Scott DeLong and Vince Moiso share from their experience around current issues facing executives, entrepreneurs, and their leadership teams. The CEO Podcast starts now.
Hey everybody, welcome to the CEO Podcast. I'm Vince Moiso, and I'm here as always with my partner in crime, Scott DeLong. And we are well into season 3, and we wanted to talk about latest economic trends. And I think what's really hot right now for businesses is thinking about what's ahead, right? So there's a lot of indicators right now in the market that are showing a major slowdown. We've got some headwinds with consumer confidence, and Feds are signaling a recession, right?
But it's weird too, because with unemployment being so low and jobs being plentiful, this is a weird economic time.
It is.
I've been around 6 decades and I haven't seen anything like this.
Well, it is, and recently, as I shared with you, Scott, I was at a breakfast. It was an event put on by Entrepreneurs Organization, and the CEO of Commerce West Bank came and spoke to us and really kind of gave us his economic outlook. And he said that there's a lot of mixed signals, mixed indicators that are out there right now. That does make it a little bit confusing as to what we should be looking at and when some things are going to happen. And so you're already seeing some of the telltale signs, the things that are obvious, like decreasing prices in gas. You've got in secondary markets, you're seeing real estate already decrease. You've got interest rates that are rising. The Feds are clear. They're pushing to slow demand, right? And they're pushing to increase interest rates even higher than they already are right now, and ultimately that's going to slow things down. But what he termed it as is, I think the Feds are trying to achieve a soft landing, what he called a soft landing, sure. Which has only happened, I think, one other time in the 90s. So we'll see.
But there's one factor that I think that overrides all the others, and you cannot have a soft landing without this: consumer confidence.
Yeah.
And the consumer confidence is low for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
It's low for a lot of reasons. One, the pandemic was partly, the politics are part of it, the interest rates rising, but they've risen a couple points. Great. That's a huge increase from from negative, right?
We're still at low interest rates.
Yeah, you can buy a house in the 5% range. I bought my first house was at 12% interest. So it's not as bad as it looks or as you hear the other side talking about.
Sure.
Which lowers consumer confidence.
Well, in fact, today I think it's a strange time to be a part of, because you've got this messaging that's getting pushed out by the government, right? Yep. By the Feds. But then you've got all this noise on social media, because the key word in there is media. Social media is media.
I thought the key word was noise, because that's what I see a lot of it as.
Listen, though, we're getting, let's just face it, a lot of people are getting their information from Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, and so this is where they're getting their information.
Those news agencies?
Yeah, they're not watching the traditional news channels to get all their
Walter
information.
Cronkite doesn't exist anymore either, right?
No.
Where you just stated the facts.
Yeah.
It's all politicized.
It is, and you're getting a point of view versus just fact. Yeah. I mean, it's the same if you just go search on the internet. Well, Google, depending on where you live, will determine the information that you actually get. Yeah. Right? So, if you live in Orange County versus San Francisco versus Columbia, Missouri, right? The information that you get on the internet is going to be. Why do you think every time it pops up it says you've got to allow Google to see your location, right? To use your location, because that's the information that's going to stream based on the location that you provide. Yep. And so this is where we're getting our information from. So there's a lot of mixed messages out there. My question ultimately, why are we talking about this, Scott? Is my big question is, all right, well, what do I do with all this information? And if I'm running a business, or I'm a leader in a business, what the heck am I going to do? How do I forecast? how do I get out in front of this? What are things I should be doing now to really prepare for
well,
what's in
especially
front of
your
us?
business is, I think, especially tough because it's in the manufacturing business.
Yeah.
Because you have several steps between you and the consumer. Then.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
So you've got not just consumer confidence, but you have the retailer's confidence and maybe distributors' confidence, right? And that makes an impact on how they're ordering from you.
Already, right? I mean, some of the larger companies, the national accounts that we're doing business with right now, are already backing off their purchases, right? So, we launched, just as an example, we launched a line with a large national account, and they put a halt on some of the merchandising that they were going to spend. So they've got a spending freeze already, and so this is the information that's coming back to us at this point. So, okay, great. How do we pivot? How do we adapt? And what do we need to do to plan for everything that's right in front of us?
Well, it's an interesting take that they're taking as well, because they just got through supply chain issues where they had no inventory on the shelves or in their warehouse, and now they're cutting back on purchases, right?
Yeah.
So obviously their forecast is the consumers aren't going to be buying your product or other products from their shelves.
Yeah.
And that is all based on what? Right? So you're in the building industry.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to start building again. Why? Because a year ago, when there was no supply and everybody was working, the prices went through the roof. I couldn't afford to build anything then.
Yeah.
I'm going to be able to start affording to. Now my problem is going to be supply chain, because no one's going to have any inventory, because they're going to shut your furnaces down because they're not going to purchase anything. And it's a crazy.
Well, here's
crazy
an
system.
indicator that you can see at the quickest level, right? So you go into Target, or you go into Walmart, or you go into Costco, these type of places. So you're starting to see prices come down,
Right.
And this is the format that you're seeing prices come down: discounts.
Right.
So it's not that they're shifting prices permanently down.
Right.
It's, hey, get 10% off this, get 50% off that. Come in, they're giving a lot of incentives out. Why is that? Well, remember the backup of inventory across all industries, because we've had such a backlog at the port, right? So there's a lot of port congestion, and these containers that are taking months and months and months for these companies to receive. Well, they were ordered back when demand was at a peak.
Yep.
Right? And they didn't get here in a timely manner. So now all these companies are receiving that inventory. So they have more inventory than what the current demand is right now. So you're seeing this happen on
But
a
their
large
retail
scale.
price needs to stay up. Not what they sell at is different, but the retail price needs to stay up, because the purchase price, and they got to be able to justify getting that price again someday. They're going to have to discount now in order to get rid of product, but they don't want to lower the price.
Well, in fact, the CEO from Commerce West, his message was very clear on inventory: sell it. He was saying, sell it and sell it, right? And do not over order inventory. So if you're looking just for some straight advice off this podcast right now, is I think if you are a distributor or manufacturer, or so you're ordering for inventory, I think you've really got to take a look at your levels and what you anticipate that you're going to sell in the near term, and buy accordingly, and or sell accordingly.
So let's go back to the economist, because I'm interested to say, okay, sell it, right? Discount it, sell it, get rid of it. What is he telling you to do with the cash?
Well, he's saying cash flow is king. Not cash is king. Cash flow is king right now. So he said cash flow is going to be the most important thing for anyone to survive over the next couple of years, really. So he's saying a major focus on cash flow is going to be one of the most important things you can do as a business.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, we've been focused on cash flow for a number of years at this point. My business coach, he had me get religion on that really, really fast. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. You can go to the market and offer discounts for prepay. That's another way to increase your cash flow. So you can discount your inventory. So if you're sitting on inventory for more than 90 days, let's say 120 days, you start to discount that out and move it, and you create cash in that way. And there's other tricky things that you can do. you don't have to go to prepay. It's just even shifting customers to net 10, net 15, and early pay, right? And offering a 1% or 2% discount for early pay.
15 years ago, I was at a executive leadership program in Berkeley, at the Haas School of Business in Berkeley, and they had a game. They had a simulated game that we had to play. We had teams to do it, and my team happened to win. It wasn't because of my ideas, but we happened to win this game, and we won it based on one philosophy: offer a discount for shorter terms.
Yeah.
That was enough to make our little company much more profitable than everybody else, no matter what they were doing.
Well, no matter what, your cash flow, your EBITDA cash
Yeah.
flow becomes monster at
Yeah.
that point. And really that's what it's all about. I mean, even if you're carrying a lot of debt in your business, if you can make cash flow work, you're gonna survive. You just are. And that's the way, in my opinion, that's the number one way. I'm in total agreement, by the way, with the CEO from Commerce West. And I thought those were wise words, because I do believe that if you pay attention to cash flow, that's what's going to get you through rough
So let's
times.
talk about a few other things that businesses can do in order to solve cash flow problems, right? And this one's a dichotomy as well, because you've got people hiring in a tight labor market and low unemployment, yet one of the traditional ways of regaining cash is laying folks off.
Well, so let's talk about the labor market, because we did in this particular meeting, we did talk a little bit about the labor market and what is going to happen. I think through the end of this year and into 2023, a lot of people were overpaid in certain positions.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we talked about that a year ago. We brought a recruiter in, right? And he was a guest, and it was great. He gave us some great information about what was going on. And you had people paying massive upfront bonuses to get people on board,
20% bumps in salaries, all that stuff.
So I hate to say this, though, a lot of those people can look forward toward the end of this year probably getting laid off and moving into 2023.
So if you remember, I asked him specifically about that, and of course his business is turning people, right? Mm-hmm. And I suggested, I asked the question that, so they're hoarding employees right now because it's a tight labor market and they're paying too much for them. To me, that means they're going to have to let go. Go back to Jack Welch at GE. He called him Neutron Jack because he had a philosophy that you lay off the 10%, the lowest 10% producers every year, no matter what.
Yeah.
I want turnover was his concept, because the cream will start rising to the top. You'll get rid of the people that aren't quite as good. Even if they become good, if they're the lower 10%, they got laid off.
Right.
So it was interesting that the recruiter didn't think that was going to happen, and I still think it's going to happen.
I do. I'm in agreement with you. I disagree with what he was saying, and while he's an expert in that, I think he needs his people to stay. Now, that being said, I think the companies that he works with are, when they grab onto talent, they can afford to hang on to that talent. So he might have been saying it in the respect of some of the companies that he does business with. I think in other companies, especially in small business, I think that you just can't afford it. I mean, what's going to happen is there's going to be a bubble that bursts with that, and I think we're going to see unemployment rates rise.
So you think the shift then, we talked earlier about with the way the economy was going last year, with the work from home concept, all the power was with the employee at that point. They can make you dangle carrots, they can switch jobs, they can do all that. And you believe that's going to change this year?
I do. Probably into 2023, I do think that is going to shift. And here's what's going to happen is those people are going to go out into the realm of unemployment, and they're going to find that they're not going to get paid or offered the same amount, and they're going to struggle to get that job. I think the ability, so many people, the other thing we ran into is so many people are taking their time. A lot of people retired. They took early retirement. So I think that's the other part of the issue. Are they going to come out of retirement? I don't know. That is a prediction right now, that there's going to be more people looking to get back into the workforce.
I think the housing market is going to have a big impact on that. If the rents have gone up and up and up in the past couple of years, and if they don't stabilize, normalize, and start coming back down, people are going to come back into the market.
Yeah.
The retirees are going to come back in.
I think you're right.
And the unemployment rate's going to shoot through the roof because those people aren't counted right now in the 3.7%.
What's going to happen is that person, so the reason I bring that up is that person's with this nice skill set, right? A nice resume, is going to work for less.
Yeah.
And
they don't need as much.
They don't need as much money. So they're going to come in and work for less. And so you're going to have this little conundrum that's happening in employment. So employment status it's just going to change. Exactly how, I don't know. I don't have the answer. I'm not an economist, so I can't tell you exactly how that's going to happen. Here's what I can tell you about, though, is what you should be doing to prepare for some of these things, right? So one of which is just forecasting. I think now's the perfect time for you to step back. You're beyond mid-year at this point. You know, we're in Q3. And you should absolutely be looking at whatever you started with as a forecast at the beginning of the year. You should be scrutinizing the crap out of that thing right now and really looking at, okay, what am I going to do to finish August? What does September, October, November, and December look like? And then ultimately, what's in my pipeline that's going to carry me into Q1 for 2023? So you should be looking at that right now. Then you should be looking. And I'm talking about a detailed forecast, not just a top-line forecast. I'm talking about going deep and looking at your cost of goods sold, looking at your profitability,
product lines too,
and looking at your expenses, and ultimately saying, what adjustments do I need to make to my business right now? Well, are there adjustments or changes to my sales strategy so I can either maintain or go capture new revenue, right? Additional income. And at the same time, what am I going to do to shift my total cost of business, right? So now's a great time as prices are going down, go back to your suppliers and start to negotiate longer term situations where you might get a better price, or you might get longer terms. We talked about cash flow. Another way to build your cash flow up is to negotiate. You negotiate with your customers to pay you early or prepay, negotiate with your vendors for longer terms.
The opposite.
So
for you that you're looking for from them.
That's how and that's how you build up your DSO, right? Your days sales outstanding. So like we have a DSO of I think 22 something. It's ridiculous, right? So cash flow is king. A lot of things that you can do. My point is that now's the time to start looking at cost, expense, and whether or not you need to shift anything in sales strategy. And then ultimately starting down the path of negotiating now. If you're going to wait till December, you're going to wait till the first part of next year, it's too late.
So I agree with that completely. What I question, though, is the reforecasting. Yes, you have to do it. My question to you is, how reliable do you think you can be in these forecasts in uncertain times?
Well, I think if you can't be reliable for the rest of this year, then you don't know your business very well.
Okay.
I would argue that. I think you should be able to look through the end of the year and have a pretty good idea of what's known at this point, what you think you can finish through the end of the year. So, and I'm not saying it has to change. You might look at it and say, no, I'm pretty comfortable with where we're at. Great, that's fine. I would still encourage anyone to look at their cost of goods sold, look at expenses, and start to make adjustments. I say do that anyway. That being said, you may have to shift your forecast a little bit, top line, and if you do that, then obviously the bottom line, that's going to have an impact on the bottom line, and therefore you have to adjust your business accordingly. So I think the mistake that a lot of people make is they don't at mid-year or when you're staring at an economic downturn or a recession, you're not looking at your forecast and adjusting accordingly.
Just staying with their old budget, the budget that they set up back in October
of
last year.
You wonder why at the end of the year you lost money and you're scratching your head. What should we do? And by then it's too late.
So let's talk. So forecasting, economics, all that, it ties back together in strategic planning. One of my favorite subjects is working with organizations and their strategic planning.
Yeah.
I don't tell them how to run their business. I don't know how to run their business.
Right.
What I do is facilitate the meetings.
Yeah.
And I have companies that like to do it once a year because that's all they feel like they have time for.
Yeah.
That's almost a waste of money in my mind, right?
I don't agree with it. You know how I mean, our listeners, anybody who's been listening to us, you guys know exactly how we feel about strategic planning. So yeah, that's not going to work.
So you do major strategic planning once a year, then quarterly, but then some minor stuff monthly as well, right?
Yeah, strategic planning happens for us on a monthly basis.
Good.
Absolutely.
How much time on the monthly? So yearly sessions are longer for me, the way that I operate them. Several days, yearly sessions. Half day to a full day for the quarterly sessions.
Correct.
How often do you spend on the monthly sessions?
Half day.
Half day.
Yeah.
Okay. So
full day for quarterly, or several days for annual.
Good.
Full day for quarterly, half day for monthly.
Good. Do you do those on site or off site?
Both.
Both. So the annual is off site.
So the monthly we typically do virtual.
Okay.
So I would consider that on site.
Yep.
And then the annual and quarterlies are off site.
Okay. And when something happens mid-month, because things happen, do you do anything mid-month?
Absolutely, yeah. We'll call a meeting, and might be an hour, 2 hours, whatever. But
Good.
we'll talk through that stuff. But that's why I think the monthly is so important, is that we're so used to it that it's not unheard of for us to call a snap 1 or 2 hour meeting because something shifted. Yeah,
customer can go out of business. They could put a freeze on their purchasing that you didn't know last month, and you've got to deal with that now, not wait until our scheduled meeting.
Yeah, no, we're not waiting.
Okay.
Well, and we've got you know too is that we work off of a 1-page plan. We're using Lead with Purpose, Mark Kohler's Lead with Purpose online, and so everything's there. Our priorities are super clear, and because we're so focused on those priorities in a month, so if something happens, it's immediate. Everybody knows about it. It's not. Good. There's no surprise.
Good.
As a result of that.
So beyond.
Well, in fact, it's why we're at a point, because we're so nimble in that way, is that we're at a point right now where we're already discussing. We just this week and last week we're already redoing the forecast, and we're looking at it, and we're starting to think of. I talked about it earlier.
Yeah.
We're gonna make a trip to a major trade show because we're looking at different vendors. I mean, we've got to find different ways to. The last thing that I want to do, like the last thing that we would do, is as a last resort, it's going to be people.
Yeah. Well,
because there's so many other ways that you can save in a business and create additional revenue within a business to avoid anything to do with cutting people. So I don't subscribe to getting rid of your bottom 10% or all of that.
No, I don't either.
If I've got the talent that I want to go to a game, I'm going to go to that game every week with that talent, and I'm going to live with it. And that's on me, because I better be coaching the shit out of them and empowering them to do what needs to get done to get us to the
raise that bottom 10% up a little bit, rather than just dump them. Yeah. Totally. And there's people you need to dump, right? There's going to be people, we've made bad hiring.
Absolutely.
Their life circumstances change, whatever, and you need to let some people go.
Yeah.
But as a practice like GE used to do, I think it's horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible to do that.
No, I don't agree with it.
Right. Economic conditions, as you're looking at them right now, if they suggest that's what you need to do it fast rather than slow. All right, and it is if this is what we're seeing, delaying the inevitable does several things. One, it puts that employee into a position that they can't find another job now.
Right.
Two, it puts you in a position that you spent more money than you needed to keeping that person around.
Absolutely.
And three, the lack of respect that you're going to have from the remaining employees is going to be greater than it would by making a quick but warranted decision. Yeah. Not letting it drag out.
I'm in total agreement, Scott. I think you're preaching to the choir with me for sure on that one. I think you're doing your employee a disservice. I think you're doing your business a disservice if you're hanging on to someone or something. Right?
And your leadership reputation.
Yeah.
A disservice.
A vendor. I mean, you could be talking about a vendor that you've had a long-term relationship with, and you're paying 25% more just because you like the person, you feel bad,
or accepting bad deliveries, or whatever it
might be.
Right.
I mean, if you got to make a change or a shift in your business, you got to do it and do it now. I mean, what we're facing is going to be a recession. We're already in it, and just how bad it's going to get, I don't know. I mean, your guess is as good as mine. no matter what, you have to prepare for it. So I've been armed with some knowledge, right, which is great. I think I got some good stuff from a great source that I think is very close to what's going on. So I'm gonna take that information and I'm gonna run with it, right? So that, to me, that's information straight from the source. That's not some news bullshit that I
run with it, meaning manage
media.
my business the way it needs to be based on this information.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, so and then I've got another thing is pay attention to your customers. So I used the example you asked the question, and I used the example of a specific national account, but I'm out meeting with other key accounts.
Sure.
I'm on the phone with other key accounts, and what's going on in your business right now? Can I expect the same level of purchases from you next month? Like what are you seeing? Are you going, are purchases less? Are you not reordering? What's going on, right? So I want to know that because I need to anticipate, do I need to slow things down right now? Or do I need to just keep producing and keep running and stay status quo as long as
So that gets to the old discussion about lagging indicators, meaning the things that you could see in the rearview mirror versus the leading indicators, which is direct customer contact and finding out what's happening to them as well, rather than waiting to hear later.
Yeah, in fact, the best news that I think you're ever going to get are from your customers. So I don't care if you're in a service business, if you're in distribution, I don't care what industry you're in. Call your customers up, have these conversations, have the challenging conversations, really dig into how their business is doing, and those are going to be the leading indicators as to really what's going on. And you can adapt very, very quickly by the information and feedback that you get from customers.
Well, I think it's beneficial for the customers as well to hear from you on what your plans are and how you're going to react and all of that. So I know there's salespeople that say, well, I don't want to bug my customer with that, asking them about their business. There are people that don't want to do it because of that. They just want to take the orders and all that. But you're actually doing them a service because you're sharing.
Well, I'm getting on the phone with my sales rep. So I think that's, to me, that's okay. If the sales rep doesn't want to have that type of conversation,
you're
no
having
problem.
it anyway.
I'm having that conversation
Yeah.
because I think it's too critical as a leader in the business. So I don't, again, if you're in executive leadership or you're the owner of the business, you need to be having these conversations. So you got to be touching customers at that level and getting that feedback. There's no better information that you're going to get than that, in my opinion. And you can start to adjust accordingly and plan accordingly. I think the number one thing is, as we kind of finish up this conversation, I think one of the things I heard from you that is really critical that you should start doing right now is strategic planning.
Yep.
So if you only do it once a year, okay, then that's what you do. But we're in a recession. We're facing an economic downturn. You're not stopping it. The one thing that the CEO from Commerce West Bank said is, don't fight the feds. So if the feds are basically telling you we are going to slow demand, that means demand is going to slow.
Demand will slow.
So
and if it doesn't, they will do it again.
You're not going to magically create demand that the feds are trying to slow down. So he said, "Don't fight the feds." That was the biggest message. Don't fight the feds.
That's a great line.
So my point in being is, you should step back right now and you should be strategic planning. You should be looking at your forecast and redoing that. You should be looking at where you can save and where you can gain. Like us, we're looking at where else we can go capture market share, because in the channels that I'm already in, I'm not likely to grow that, right?
Maybe,
but
so you said something earlier that you're going to a trade show looking for new vendors. You think you're the only one that's doing that?
No, of course not.
So there's opportunity even on the sales side.
No, there are. No, I agree with you. And what I'm saying though is that what I'm looking at is diversity. So I'm looking at a channel that I'm not in right now that I can go snag some market share. That's a lot better if I can get in there quick enough. If it's going to take me 12 months, then maybe I'm not going to do that. But if that's something I can get in the next 3 to 6 months, I'm going to go do that.
Looking at new channels and instead of just looking at new customers or growth with existing customers.
Correct.
Good. I like it.
Yeah, correct. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do. I mean, we talked about a myriad of things of what you can put in place, but I really like, just to repeat, I really like strategic planning, you gotta do. If you're not doing it monthly like I'm doing, then at least do a full day. You got at a bare minimum do a full day. You got to reset on that forecast and really take a look at that. You really got to look at expenses, and cash flow is king right now. So I think cash flow is what's going to get anybody through what we're looking at.
So in the strategic planning, I want to add one more thing, and I believe in this, in getting an outsider's opinion as well. So, for instance, I've got a company coming up that's doing their strategic planning event. I'm facilitating it. They're bringing all their executives in, but we're bringing an outside person in, kind of like your Commerce West president, to talk about the economic conditions within their industry.
Yeah.
Because we can get into tunnel vision and we can see only what we see.
Absolutely.
Right? And someone like me might not be able to bring that out.
Yeah.
But having an outside view from within your industry but outside your company to throw darts at some of the ideas and thoughts that you might have.
Yeah, you got to have somebody moderate, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well,
so,
and by the way, Scott's available for that, just in case.
Especially if you go somewhere where there's a beach. I like Costa Rica a lot. Anyone want to do a strategic planning retreat down in Costa Rica? I could set that up for you. Thanks. I appreciate the plug.
I like it.
All right. This is probably a topic deeper. Can go deeper and deeper and deeper, and we'd need to bring a few experts in to get there, and then talk about our practical experience with their expertise would be great. But I think we got some places today. So,
well, Ivo, if you're listeing, that's the CEO of Commerce West Bank. If you're listening, we'd love to get you on the podcast. So I'd love to get him on, because I think what he said, some of the stuff he said was so powerful. I don't know that he'll be willing to, but I'm going to reach out to the resources that I have at EO. Great. And see if we can't get him on our podcast.
Sounds good. All right. Well, that's it for this week. This is episode 3 in season 3. I want to thank you for listening and really appreciate the people that are giving us the feedback, the people that are making suggestions on who we might want to talk to or the topics that we're going to talk about. That's always been helpful, and we want to make this useful to you.
Yeah. So if you've got some friends that you can refer out that should be listening, please subscribe. We want you to subscribe on YouTube, and we want you to subscribe to our podcast as much as possible. Spread the word. Thank you. Give us feedback. Check us out at the ceopodcast.net, and you can shoot us an email with any topics that you'd like to hear about. We like that the most, is when we've got listeners that give us suggestions for hot topics. So until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us for the CEO Podcast. Please visit us at theceopodcast.net, where you can learn more about our co-hosts and listen to past episodes. If you would like to have a discussion and dive deeper into any topic, there is also an option to contact Scott or Vince to schedule some time with them. Thanks for listening.